how are you going to cook and keep your food safe during a power outage? Hey guys, T2, welcome back to the Preparedness channel. Today is basically a part 2 of the summer power outage survival tips. In that video, I went through 5 easy to use basic tips on how not to die during a summer power outage. And in that comment section, a man named Mark Huckler said, listen, that's cool and all, but you didn't talk about food safety or how to cook. So I figured it'd be a little bit easier for me to explain more on video than it would be for me to type it out in the comment section. So this is basically going to be a 2-section video. The first section is how to keep your food safe, while the second section is going to be on how to cook said food. So I'll put a timestamp on the screen to let you guys know where the second section starts. So when we're talking about food and food safety, we're really asking the question, how do we keep our food at a certain temperature when there's no power? The easiest and simplest way, in my opinion, is to own a generator. A generator makes power when you're not getting power from the grid. Now there's a few things to remember when talking about generators. Number one, buy the generator now. Not when the storm hits, not when the power outages are happening. Buy it now and go ahead and have it, know how to use it, have all the things you're supposed to have for it. Gas, oil, spark plugs, drop cords. Have all that stuff now. Because if you wait until after the storm hits, if you wait till 3 days into the power outage, you're not going to be able to find the generator. So go ahead and pick up the generator now and learn how to use it. The second thing when talking about a generator to know is what size generator you need. The average fridge or freezer is going to use less than 1,000 watts of surge. Now, if you have a Nancy Pelosi refrigerator or a Kim Kardashian refrigerator that is the size of an entire room, you're going to need more power than 1,000 watts. And I say 1,000 watts because that is basically the cheapest generator on the market. Right now you can go to Harbor Freight and get the 1,000 watt tailgater generator that basically fits on this table for 120 bucks, give or take. 1,000 watts, it will run a fridge, it will run a freezer, maybe not together, but separately. The third thing to know is how much power are you going to be consuming. If you pull your fridge or freezer away from the wall, on the tag in the back, it should say the running watts and it should say the surge watts. Make sure the amount of surge watts on the generator is higher than the amount of surge watts on the fridge or freezer. Make sure the running watts on the generator are higher than both the fridge or the freezer or whatever you plan on running. The fourth thing to remember when talking about running a fridge or freezer on a generator is the cycle of operations, or the cyclic rotation. Your fridge and freezer do not run 24/7. What they do is they kick on for a little while, they cool down, and then they shut off. There is no point in running your generator for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when you have no power just to run a fridge or freezer. The average fridge will stay cold for between 4 and 6 hours, location dependent, and as long as you're not opening and shutting the door every 5 minutes. The average freezer will stay good somewhere between 18 and 24 hours, again, location dependent. So if you are going to run a fridge or freezer on a generator, remember, they don't run 24/7 now. Why run them 24/7 when you're on generator? That will save you gas. Plug your fridge up once every 6 hours for about an hour or so. Plug your freezer up once every 12 to 18 hours for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. Then it should be good. Again, location dependent. There's a big difference between a fridge sitting in your house and your beer fridge sitting out in your garage. The final tip for talking about generators, and we will move on. This deals more with the freezer than the fridge. So let's say you find yourself in a power outage situation. You've got the generator, it's running properly, and you go to plug in your freezer. You open up the door to check, make sure it's running, and it's only half full. What should you do? Find any water bottle, 2 liter, gallon jug, 2.5 gallon jug, it doesn't matter. Fill that bad boy up with water and stick it in the freezer. Freezers do better when they're fuller. So when you have a freezer that is half full, it's going to get warmer faster. If you pack as much stuff in that freezer as you can, it's going to stay colder for a longer period of time, therefore costing you less to run it especially when we're talking about running from a gasoline or a propane generator. I know there's some of y'all watching out there that said, man, I can't afford a generator, or maybe I live in an apartment so I can't have a generator. Give me another option. Simple. Use a cooler. A cooler is the poor man's generator. No, it's not going to keep your food frozen for weeks at a time while you have gas. However, it can at least keep it cold and halfway frozen for a day, 2 days, 3 days, hell, even 5 days, depending on what type of cooler you get. How long will this stay cold? Well, that depends on what type of cooler you have and how much ice you have in there. Obviously, a little styrofoam cooler at $5, it is not going to keep your food frozen for multiple days at a time. You're looking at maybe 10 hours, maybe 12 hours, depending on how much ice is in there and how much food you have packed in there. Your basic igloo coolers, you're looking at maybe 2 days, right? Not too bad, not too shabby. Your Yetis. I hate Yetis for what they have become. However, they did solve a problem that people did not know that they had. And that is, how do you keep ice cold for 5 days? Now, if you're out fishing for a couple of hours, there's no need to have a chest cooler that keeps ice for 5 days. But if there's a power outage, yeah, 5 days, that'd be great. Stuff all your food in there, throw some ice on it, 5 days later, go buy more ice. Now, there's also cheap knockoff Yetis. You've got Arctic, you've got Ozark Trail, you've got Igloo, you've got all these other brand names that are copying the Yeti model and are a third of the price, a quarter of the price. So if you don't want to go out here and buy a $600 cooler, you can stick with a $5 cooler. You can stick with the Igloo that's maybe 20, 30 bucks, or you can maybe bump it up and spend $100 on a decent Ozark Trail Arctic cooler that does the exact same thing that Yeti does. So some things to remember when using a cooler as your fridge or your freezer during a power outage. Number one, you at least want 50% of that being ice. I get it. You want to save all the meats, all the sodas, all the beer you can. So you fill this cooler full and it's busting at the seams. Now you have no place to put your ice. The more ice, the longer it stays cold. Again, if you fill it up slap full of food, you've got no place for the ice. If you fill it up slap full of ice, you've got no place for the food. 50-50 mix on that cooler. Number two, do not put the damn thing in the sun. People will fill their coolers up with food and beer and beverages and all this other thing and then go sit it outside on the porch. If the cooler becomes hot to touch, it's not working as effectively and efficiently as it can. You can only keep ice cold so long on a hot summer day. Don't put it in the sun. Find the coolest, shadiest spot you can and put that cooler there. So now that we're done talking about food safety, let's move on to the food. What type of food should you be buying in anticipation for a power outage, and how do you cook said food if you don't have power? Most American households have an electric stove, so when they lose power, they lose their ability to cook. So what food should you be buying that you don't have to cook? Anything that is shelf stable, lasts for a decent amount of time, and does not require cooking. Things like Pop-Tarts, granola bars, cereal bars, or even just dry cereal. Raviolis, canned SpaghettiOs, they also do not require cooking neither. They're pre-cooked in a can, you pop the can, you eat it straight out of the can. Things like treat meat, Spam, or even the Dak ham or Bristol hams. And you can also be thinking about things like the Little Debbie's or any type of honey bun, sweet cake, snack cake, because eventually if you go a couple of days without power, you're going to want something sweet. So having a way to satisfy that sweet tooth, especially when you're bored. Now where I come from, we call these hurricane snacks. And anytime there's a hurricane coming, we rush out to the store, everyone buys up all the hurricane snacks, which are the easy to eat, open and eat type meals. The problem with that is most times the hurricane snacks do not make it to the hurricane. We get home and we're like, ooh, we've got Little Debbie's, we've got raviolis, we got Slim Jims, and then they're gone. So also be thinking of easy to eat and easy to cook meals. Most people, and I'm saying most in my area, have some sort of outdoor grill. Whether that be propane or charcoal, it doesn't really matter. If you live in an apartment, this might not be the same for you. You can get a couple of days of cooking off of a bag of charcoal, as long as you're not using half the bag just to bring water to a boil. That is one reason I like propane more. because I'm only using the amount I need. I don't have to light up all 5 of my burners when I'm only cooking on one of them. So me personally, I do like propane better. Speaking of propane, if you don't have the space or the availability for a large grill, such as a propane or charcoal grill, you can get a camping backpack stove. A 1-pound propane cylinder is only going to run you like $3-4 bucks. Then you can also buy a little stove top that goes right on them. All you have to do is turn the dial, bring the gas on, light it up, and now you have instant flame and a way to cook. Depending on which grill you buy, you can also buy the 20-pound adapter and just buy a 20-pound propane tank. The 20-pound tank will last a lot longer than the 1-pound tank, but if you live in an apartment, it might not be an option for you depending on, all the rules and regs in your apartment complex. Now there's also isobutane stoves like this one. This is a lot smaller and a lot more portable than the 1-pound Coleman green tanks. However, you're paying more for this type of fuel than you are the 1-pound propane tanks. This is 3.9 ounces and it costs almost double what the 1-pound cylinders are. Other cooking options include things like the ESBE stoves. These are stoves that are about yay big. They can fit in your back pocket, they come with fuel tabs. You pull one of the fuel tabs out, set the stove on the ground, throw a fuel tab in it, light it up. You get about 8 minutes of burn time. Can you boil water in 8 minutes? Not usually with an ESBE, no. But normally it takes about 2 to 3. So you can do some easy cooking, such as rice, ramen, things like that. But I wouldn't be trying to cook a full course meal using an ESBE stove. You can also use things like biomass stoves. Now, the biggest one on the market is the BioLight. I'm not a fan because it's super bulky, but it can recharge your phone. That's pretty convenient. Other types of wood-burning stoves include the Lixida and the Emberlit, which we have used on this channel. These are small, portable, packable, wood-burning stoves that fold up nice and flat when you're done with them. With the Lixida, we got a cup of boiling water in about 8 to 9 minutes. With the Emberlit, we damn near set the woods on fire in about 5 minutes. So yeah, be careful with these. One thing to remember is you're going to have to find fuel. You're going to have to find wood. You're going to have to find dry wood at that. Now, if you live in the city, this might not be a good option for you because, again, you probably don't have as many trees as I do. So finding dry wood to bring your water to a boil might be a little bit more difficult than it sounds. If you do choose to go out here and buy some sort of stove, stick with meals that are easy to cook, that don't require a lot of fuel and don't require a lot of water. Grits, oatmeal, instant rice, instant pasta, even just plain spaghetti. It does not require a lot of fuel and it doesn't require a lot of water to get those meals ready to go. When it comes to power outages, the amount of fuel you have for your cooking apparatus could potentially matter. If you have 3 days worth of fuel and they tell you it's a 3-day outage, hey, you're good to go. But all it takes is for something to be broken down the line and a 3-day outage becomes a 3-week outage. Now that 3 days of fuel isn't going to last very long. So ration your fuel. Be careful with your fuel. Don't waste your fuel. Another way to cook food during a power outage, I'll throw this in here, it's not for everybody, that is solar methods. All American Sun Oven, GoSun Go, GoSun Sport, GoSun Fusion. These are great options. My GoSun series of stoves is a product that if I had to restart my prepping journey, it is one thing that I would buy first. You stick it outside in the sun, you stick some food in it, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, the food is fully cooked, you bring it inside, get all the food out, you're ready to go again. So Mark, I hope this answers your question on food safety. I hope it also answers your question on what to cook and how to cook during a power outage. If you have any other questions or tips, be sure to leave them down below. That's all I've got for today. T2 out.